Hey guys, it's Lukeon, and today I am finally going to be doing my 2022 Midyear book Freakout tag. I know this is like the latest book Freakout tag on the history of the planet, but I've just been super busy. I had my last day of school was June 14th, and then I had my last exam on June 15th, which was consequently also my birthday, and then the end of June was just kind of hectic, and then July, like, I was trying to hang out with my friends before they were, like, leaving on vacation. I was going on vacation, I was going on college visits, and I've been doing college applications, and just, like, it's just, time really got away from me this month, but I'm going to do my best to have some more time management. In August, I'm going to be doing my, like, annual reading 7 books in 7 days challenge, so I'm going to try to vlog every single day and post a new vlog every single day and read a new book every single day for a week, so I'm just going to have to find a week that works best for that. But I'm also going to be doing college interviews that month, so I'm just going to try to do my best to find a week that works, and I'm also going to be going on a short vacation in August as well, and on the first day of August I'm helping my sister move into her apartment in the city, so it's just been a little bit crazy, but I have some exciting videos coming up, that like challenge thing, and then I'm going to do my bookshelf tour, hopefully around August or September. I'm also, again, working on college applications, so hopefully by the end of December I'll know where I'm going to college and do like a kind of fun little college video that I'm excited to do, but yeah, it's just been a little bit hectic, but I'm ready to do this video now, so let's just get into it. Let's talk about the best and worst books I have read so far this year. Oh, also, I made sure to only pick books that I had read before July 1st, so that it wasn't like getting too much into the weeds of like stuff that I read in July, so just keep that in mind. But the first question is the best book that you've read so far this year, and for that I'm going to go with The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamala. I read this book in May, and I still think about it all the time. This book takes place in the 1950s during the revolution in Iran. In this book, we follow a girl named Roya who is kind of falling in love for the first time with a boy named Bahman, and I don't want to say too much because I think even the like inside flap for this book says too much, but just know I loved this book. The writing in this book is some of the best that I have like ever read. I love Marjan Kamala's writing. I love just the progression of the story and how she decided to tell the story, and like how each chapter kind of is like its own separate story. I just love this book. I love the structure of it. I love the characters so much. Roya and Bahman are so amazing, and all of their like family members and friends that are in this book are also great. I love how it's like 2 distinct timelines in this book. It's just really amazing, and again, the writing is just so phenomenal. And I still think about certain scenes and passages in this book, and I can't wait to reread it soon, because I just need to be back in this book again. So yeah, I love this book, and it's definitely going to be on my favorite books of the year list. It was so good. Then we have the best sequel that you've read so far this year, and I actually have 2 books for this because I just couldn't decide, but the first one is The Rose and the Dagger by Renèe Ahdieh. I read this book in April, and I absolutely loved it. I didn't even know if I was going to end up reading this book because I liked The Wrath and the Dawn, but it wasn't like my favorite book of all time. But I wanted to read all of Renèe Ahdieh's books, and I was kind of just like in a little bit of a slump in the beginning of April. I didn't really know what to read, but I was like, let me just finish the Wrath and the Dawn series, and I'm so glad that I decided to, because The Rose and the Dagger was a million times better than the first book. I didn't really like the storytelling aspect in the first book so much, and I loved how this kind of deviated from that, and I loved getting to see Scheherazade and Khalid like completely separate and then back together. It was just, I loved how this book was, again, structured, and Renèe Ahdieh's writing is some of my favorite in YA. It's just so smooth and seamless, and I loved the focuses we got on some of the other characters, because I felt like in the first book it was really just about Scheherazade and Khalid, but in this book we kind of expanded the cast a lot more, and we got a lot more magic in this book, and I just absolutely loved it. So definitely one of the best sequels / finales I read this year. And then the same goes for, where is this book in this pile? Right here. Lightbringer by Victoria Aveyard. This was the last book that I read in June, and I loved it. I don't think I love it, like, it's probably going to be a little bit lower for my favorite books of the year list, but I still absolutely loved this story. I love how this book sort of continued on from the first book. Oh, I just realized I didn't explain it. So basically, this is the sequel to Realmbreaker. which is about like this ragtag group of misfits who try to take over the world after the original people who tried to take over the world all were killed. It's kind of confusing, but there's basically this person who is opening portals to these other realms and letting these monsters seep in because he wants to rule the entire world, basically. And this book picks up where the last book left off, and it's just full of adventure and character development, and I loved all of that, and it was just really fun and action-packed. So definitely a favorite sequel of the year. And then I created my own category of favorite finale, and for that I'm going to discuss Lightbringer by Claire Legrand. This was my first 5-star read of the year. And I actually read this book during like kind of a hard time in my life, and I think it definitely got me out of that because I reread the first 2 books when I was just kind of dealing with some like rough things in my personal life, and I got around to this book, and I just loved getting to see how Eliana and Riel's journey ended. This series follows 2 main characters, Riel and Eliana, who are separated by 1,000 years, and there was this prophecy in this world that there will be 2 queens, one of sun and one of blood, one who will destroy the world and one who will save the world, and they're kind of both trying to figure out who is who, like which queen they are, and it's just really fascinating. I love how Claire Legrand has like these 2 completely separate stories work together in the end and kind of intertwine, and I loved the journeys that these characters went on, and I loved the expansion of the cast in this particular installment, and I feel like it was the best ending that I could have asked for, and again, it really helped me through like a difficult time, so I feel like I owe something to this book a little bit. Question number 4 is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. I actually have 2 books for this. The first is Shah and the Nectar of Immortality by Roshani Chokshi. Usually I read an Shah book in July for like that 7 book in 7 days, but I didn't get to do that this July, so I'm going to be reading it next month. And yeah, I absolutely love the series. I don't want it to end, but I am still super excited for this finale. Same with Forging Silver into Stars by Brigid Kemmerer. I'm also planning on reading that for that 7 books in 7 days challenge, but you will have to stay tuned to see if I actually end up doing that. But I love Brigid Kemmerer's writing, and I'm so excited to continue on with the Cursebreaker series and see what Tycho and the other characters are up to. Next we have your most anticipated releases for the second half of the year, and I have a bunch of books for this. The first one is The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the 3rd and final book in the Inheritance Games series. The Inheritance Games follows a girl named Avery who ends up finding out that she is the sole heir to this billion-dollar fortune by this man that she has never met in her entire life, and the only thing she has to do to claim this fortune is to live in his house with his crazy relatives for a year and, you know, like not die. So yeah, I love this first book. I didn't love the second book as much, but I feel like the 3rd book will redeem it. And I just love all the riddles and puzzles and mysteries of this series. It's so addicting. If you need a book to just fly through, and if you're like in a reading slump, definitely pick this one up because it's so good and it's like so addicting to read and compulsively readable. Then we have Defend the Dawn by Brigid Kemmerer, which is the sequel to Defy the Night. I read this book last year when it came out, and I really enjoyed it. It follows 2 main characters, Tessa and Korik. Tessa is kind of a vigilante, and in this world, there's the sickness sweeping the kingdom, multiple kingdoms, and there's only one cure for it. It's this elixir that only grows in this particular region of the world, and Tessa basically is like Robin Hood. She's like helping to save people with her friend Harrison. And then we have Korik, who is the prince, and he is also the like king's right-hand man, so he like orders executions for people. It's kind of difficult to explain, but basically they end up meeting and there's a lot of political drama, and I just really, really loved this book. It's really magical, and I love Brigid Kemmerer's writing and how she builds fantasy worlds, so I'm really excited to see how the sequel continues the story. Then we have possibly one of my most anticipated, probably my most anticipated release of the year, and that is 9 Liars by Maureen Johnson, which is the next book in the Truly Devious series. The Truly Devious series is one of my absolute favorite series of all time. I reread it every single year, and I'm so excited for this next book. It takes place in England, and it's like another cozy mystery sort of style, and I just can't wait to read it. I love Stevie, and I love all the cast, and I love the way Maureen Johnson writes mysteries, so I hope she doesn't disappoint me. And I don't think she will. She has not disappointed me thus far with the series. Then I have The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber, which is the sequel to Once Upon a Broken Heart. I actually really didn't like Once Upon a Broken Heart. I ended up giving it like 2.5, 2.75 out of 5 stars. But the way that this book ended gave me so much hope for the sequel that I just feel like I'm going to enjoy it a lot more. And I have faith in Stephanie Garber because I love the Caraval series, and I don't think she can let me down twice, so I'm really hopeful for that next book. I'm also really looking forward to The Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo, which is a graphic novel set in the Grisha world, and it follows the Darkling. It's like the prequel, and yeah, I'm really excited for it. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it, but I'm hopefully I'm cautiously optimistic. Then coming out in November, we have Cursed, which is the sequel to Gilded by Marissa Meyer, which I read in January and really enjoyed. It's a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, and it's, again, pretty difficult to explain, but I read a sampler of this book on NetGalley, and it was really interesting, and I'm super excited to see how this story continues and wraps up, because it is the finale to the series, so I'm excited to see what happens in that book, and just see how Marissa Meyer ends the, saga. This is probably my least favorite, Marissa Meyer world well, I actually really like the world, but, my least favorite Marissa Meyer story. But I feel like Gilded was a little bit weak. I feel like Cursed is gonna come through and be, amazing. So, again, Marissa Meyer, don't let me know. Okay, next we have Biggest Disappointment, and I'm gonna be a little bit salty for this one, but I have a few. The first one that I'm gonna talk about is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I hated this book. I gave it 2 stars, but even thinking back, I don't think it even deserves 2 stars. I just really disliked this book. My one thing with this book is that I didn't understand the point of it. I didn't understand what it was trying to do. I didn't understand what it was trying to make you feel. I didn't understand why this book was written and put out into the world. Because I just didn't feel like there was any closure, there was no ending. It was just kind of a weird little story that could have easily been a short story or a novella, but she dragged it out to be a 350 page book, which was not needed. And also I felt so cheated by this book because there are journal entries, but they are just repeated for the whole book. There's only a handful of them, and they're just repeated ad nauseum. And there is artwork, but again, there's only 8 pieces, and they're just reused so many times throughout this book. So it's 334 pages, but it is in actuality probably 250, just with how many pages are taken up just with these repeated journal entries and repeated art pieces. So it was just really annoying. I didn't understand this book. I didn't like the main character. The writing was good because it's V.E. Schwab, but I don't know. It just wasn't good, okay? Then we have one that I'm not too bitter about, but it was a little bit of a disappointment, and that was House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. I was really looking forward to this book because I really enjoyed the first book in the Crescent City series, House of Earth and Blood, and I thought this book would blow me out of the water. And I really only liked the last 200 pages of this book. I actually have a full vlog where I discuss all of my spoilery thoughts on this book, so if you're interested in that, I can link it in the description box below. But yeah, it was just, this book was 800 pages, it easily could have been 500, so that was my main gripe with this book and why I was a little bit disappointed in it, but you can, again, see my in-depth thoughts in that video. Same thing with Five Dark Fates by Kendare Blake. I feel for a finale to a series that has been so, long-running and just, pretty good so far, this one was just a little bit disappointing. It easily could have been a lot shorter, or we could have shortened the 3rd book and this book and had them just be one installment. So, that's why I didn't really like this book so much. And then I also want to talk about An Arrow to the Moon by Emily X.R. Pan. This one pains me because I loved The Astonishing Color of After, and I love Emily X.R. Pan's writing, and I love Romeo and Juliet and all mythology, but this book just wasn't good. It was just not, again, I didn't see the point of it. I didn't understand what I was getting from this story that I haven't gotten from millions of other Romeo and Juliet retellings and millions of other books with Chinese mythology. It just wasn't anything special, and I was really bored 99% of the time while reading it. Then I also read Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. I thought this book would be like revolutionary and help me through another difficult point in my life, which was happening at the beginning of June, but it really didn't do anything for me. And then my last one is Valiant by Holly Black. I didn't really like Tithe, but I enjoyed it enough to like want to continue on with the series. And then I read Valiant and I was just so done with this series, so yeah, I just really did not like that book and it just totally turned me off from the rest of the series. Next we have Biggest Surprise, and for this one I'm actually going to talk about a reread, and that was Flame in the Mist by Renèe Ahdieh. This is a book that I read quite a few years ago. I think 2018 was the first time that I read it, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. Like, I think I gave it like 3.5 out of 5 stars the first time I read it, and then as time went on I just didn't really care about it. I had no plans on finishing the series, but then I kind of just picked it up again on a whim, and I loved this book. I gave it like 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was so amazing. I loved Margot, the main character, and I loved how the like original Ballad of Mulan was kind of intertwined through the book, and I loved all the characters. I loved the writing as always, and the world is really interesting. It's kind of a take on feudal Japan, and it was just really, really great, and I was super surprised at my enjoyment of this. Next we have Favorite New Author, Debut, or New to You, and I'm actually going to talk about Betty White for this one. I was looking through my Goodreads and I realized I didn't read a lot of authors for the first time, and I actually didn't read a lot of debuts this year, which I'm going to try to fix in the second half of the year. But Betty White, I read her, like 3 of her books, and I love Betty White. She's like my favorite celebrity of all time. She's one of my favorite people on earth, and I'm so sad that she passed away on like the last day of the year last year. And I kind of just wanted to read this to celebrate her, and I really enjoyed all of these books, so yeah, I love Betty White, and I can never miss an opportunity to talk about her. The next question is Newest Fictional Crush, but I'm going to skip that one and do Newest Fictional Character. And for that I'm going to go with Vika and Nikolai from The Crown's Game by Evelyn Skye. I'm like still thinking about these characters, and it's been months since I read the book. I read it in January, but I loved their characters. I thought they were so interesting, and I loved their like romance and how they developed through just like 2 books. And I don't think I realized how much I enjoyed The Crown's Game and The Crown's Fate the first time that I read, like when I read them in January, but I think they've definitely stood the test of time. I read them like 7 months ago at this point, and I still really like think about them all the time. So yeah, I really, really loved them and their development over the course of that duology. So I definitely recommend that book if you haven't read it yet, and if you read Circle of Shadows and you didn't like it, I would definitely still recommend picking up The Crown's Game because it is a million times better. Then we have a book that made you cry, and I'm going to talk about The Stationery Shop again. Again, I was still kind of going through something when I was reading this book. That thing happened in like March, but I was still kind of going through it in May, and then it kind of came back in my life. Sorry I'm being so cryptic about it, but I just don't feel like airing out all my dirty laundry. It was kind of like resurfaced when I was reading this book, and I think it was the confluence of that and also just the emotion packed into this story that it just kind of it tipped me over a little bit, and I definitely started tearing up at this book, and it definitely helped me through that time again, like Lightbringer did. So I kind of just, every time I think about this book, I just feel like very heartwarmed, and it definitely got me through a hard time, and I think crying is the best medicine, and I think The Stationery Shop, it fulfilled its duty in that. Then we have a book that made you happy, and for that I'm also going to be talking about those Betty White books. I love Betty White, and I loved reading about her life, and especially, If You Ask Me, Of Course You Won't. That was an audiobook that she narrated, and I loved listening to that. It was just the perfect audiobook, because she narrates it herself. And I also want to talk about the Heartstopper series, which is the series that I read when that difficult thing first happened, because I was in a reading slump and I just didn't know what to read. And I read these books, and they were so helpful in that, and I just felt really calmed by this series, so I definitely have to give it some credit in that. And then the last question is the most beautiful book you have bought or received this year, and for that I absolutely have to go with This Woven Kingdom by Taha Mafi. This is the Illumicrate Special Edition that I received in my Illumicrate box, and I talked about this in my reading vlog for this Woven Kingdom, which I can link in the description box below, but this is the Special Edition from Illumicrate, and I unboxed it in that video as well, and it is just absolutely beautiful. This is the front cover, we got the spine, and then the back, and then we have this stencil design on the like navy sprayed edges, and then we have this beautiful illustration in the like end pages. It's absolutely stunning, and I'm like scared to even hold it because I feel like I'm gonna ruin it. But yeah, this is like one of my most prized possessions. I love this book so much, like both the inside and the outside. So yeah, definitely the most beautiful book I got this year. But that is it for this video. I'm again sorry that it was so late, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway, and I hope you're excited for some new videos. But yeah, that is it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. All my social media links are in the description box below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!